Driving down the highway on my way home from a business trip, I kept glancing at my daughter Lucy in the passenger seat. She had just turned 7, and usually she'd tell me about school and her friends, but today she'd been silent the whole time. Looking at her profile as she stared out the window, I could see something tense about her. "Lucy, did you have fun at Grandma's house?" When I asked, my daughter just nodded slightly. Had something happened? My mother could be too strict sometimes, so maybe she'd said something to Lucy again. But it was better not to ask right now. I talked to her slowly after we got home. I parked in the apartment building's lot and headed to the entrance with our luggage. Lucy followed silently behind me. The moment I reached for my keys, my daughter grabbed my arm. "Mommy, I don't want to go in." I turned around to see Lucy's face had gone pale. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" My daughter didn't answer, but moved closer to the door and pressed her ear against it. Then she looked up at me. "Mommy, you listen too." I had a bad feeling. I pressed my ear against the door. At first I didn't hear anything. But when I held my breath quietly and concentrated, I heard faint sounds. Someone walking around inside. The sound of drawers opening. Someone was inside my house. It had been 3 weeks ago. Everything had started changing from that day. Or maybe it had started even earlier. I just hadn't noticed. My name is Megan. I work as a project manager at an IT company. I lived in a house I'd inherited from my grandmother with just my daughter Lucy. 3 years ago, I divorced a man named Brandon. The reason was his affair. The wounds from that time still hadn't completely healed, but I'd been living my life looking forward for my daughter's sake. Balancing work and childcare as a single mother wasn't easy. I'd wake up early in the morning to make Lucy's breakfast, send her off to school, then go to work. In the evening I'd rush home to prepare dinner. On weekends I treasured the time I spent with my daughter. Sometimes I was exhausted, but seeing Lucy's smile made it all feel worthwhile. Recently, I'd started dating a colleague from work named Derek. He was a former police officer who now worked in the security department at my company. He was kind and sincere, and cared about Lucy too. I felt like I'd finally met a man I could truly trust. But my mother Patricia wasn't happy about Derek. My mother doted on Lucy. At least, that's how it appeared on the surface. Mom would visit several times a week to help with cleaning and cooking. At first I was grateful. But gradually, criticism started creeping into her words. "You're always working. Poor Lucy. Frozen food isn't good for children. Are you helping her with her homework properly?" And after I started dating Derek, Mom's attitude became noticeably cold. "That man is no good. You don't even know what kind of person he is. Brandon was better." My ex-husband Brandon never missed his twice-monthly visits with our daughter. He'd always show up with a smile to pick her up and take her to amusement parks or movies. He seemed to play the good father. But his child support payments were often late, and when I'd remind him, he'd sometimes blow up at me. For some reason, my mother defended him. I couldn't understand it. The overnight business trip was decided 2 weeks ago. There was an important client meeting I absolutely couldn't miss. I was worrying about what to do with Lucy when my mother offered. "I'll take her. Don't worry, just focus on your work." I was grateful for my mother's offer. I had no way of knowing then that it was a trap. I arrived at my hotel at the business trip destination after 8 at night. I put my luggage in the room and immediately called my mother. I wanted to hear Lucy's voice. "Hello, Mom. Is Lucy doing okay?" "Yes, of course. She's in the bath right now." My mother's voice sounded normal. But something seemed a little tense. Was it just my imagination? "I see. Can I talk to Lucy later then?" "It's late, so how about tomorrow morning?" My mother hung up after saying that. Usually we'd talk a bit longer. I felt something was off, but I was tired and didn't think too deeply about it. The next day, the client meeting went smoothly. During the break, I got a message from Derek. "Can you talk for a minute?" I left the conference room and called him. "What's wrong?" "Megan, I found something strange. I was looking at your ex-husband's social media, and he's sharing photos from your business trip location." My heart jumped. "What? What do you mean?" "Photos of the hotel exterior, the building where the meeting is being held. It's where you are right now. Someone's feeding him information." I hadn't told Brandon about my business trip. There was no reason to. So who had told him? "I'll check." "Thanks, Derek." I hung up and immediately contacted my mother. The ringtone went on for a long time before my mother finally answered. "Mom, did you tell Brandon about my business trip?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" My mother's voice was strained. I could hear some noise in the background. A man's voice. "Mom, is someone there?" "No one's here. It's the TV." It was clearly a lie. That wasn't the sound of a TV. It was someone talking. "Let me talk to Lucy." "Just a moment." A few seconds later, I heard my daughter's voice. "Mommy? Lucy, are you okay? Did something happen?" My daughter was silent for a moment, then answered in a small voice. "Daddy's here." The blood froze in my veins. "Daddy is there right now?" "Yeah. He's talking to Grandma." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Okay. Mommy will be home tomorrow. Be a good girl, okay?" "Okay." Lucy's voice sounded anxious. When I hung up, my mother took over. "Brandon just stopped by. He came to see Lucy. It's not his visitation day. Why is he at your house? Don't get so angry. What's wrong with a father coming to see his daughter?" My mother's tone was defensive. The way she spoke made it sound like I was doing something wrong, and it made me angry. But I needed to stay calm now. "Fine. But next time, contact me in advance." I said only that and hung up. That afternoon, I got an unexpected call from a colleague at work. It was Sarah from HR. "Megan, I'm calling because something's concerning me." "What is it?" "Today, Child Protective Services contacted the company. About you." My heart nearly stopped. Child Protective Services. There was an anonymous report about possible abuse. Of course, I don't believe it. My mind went blank. Abuse? Me? Who would tell such a lie? What did they say? They wouldn't give details, but they said they want to investigate your childcare environment. Are you okay? Do you have any idea who might have done this? None at all. It's someone's harassment. But in my heart, I already had a sense of who would do something like this. Brandon or my mother. Or both of them. After hanging up, I couldn't concentrate on the meeting. I was so worried about Lucy. Should I continue the business trip or go home immediately? But the meeting continued until tomorrow morning. There was an important contract with the client ahead. That night in the hotel room, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Lucy. Was my daughter really safe at my mother's house? Why was Brandon there? And why had my mother let him in? I called Derek. Hearing his voice calmed me down a bit. Child Protective Services contacted me. What? I explained the situation. Derek said in a voice containing his anger. This is clearly harassment. Someone's trying to set you up. I know. But what should I do? First, come home right away tomorrow. I'll see if there's anything I can investigate. It'll be okay, we'll solve this together. His words felt like a lifeline. The next day, as soon as the meeting ended, I drove home. Speeding down the highway, I arrived at my mother's house in the evening. When I rang the doorbell, my mother came out. "Oh, you're back already." My mother's smile looked fake. "I'm here to pick up Lucy." My daughter came running from the living room. When she hugged me, she whispered in a small voice, "Mommy, I want to go home now." There was something urgent in that voice. I picked Lucy up and said to my mother, "Thanks, Mom. We're going home now. Why don't you at least stay for dinner?" "No, we'll eat at home." My mother's expression hardened for a moment. But I didn't care and got in the car with my daughter. In the car, Lucy seemed a bit relieved. But she was still quiet. "Did something happen at Grandma's house?" My daughter shook her head. But her eyes looked like they were hiding something. On the drive home, my anxiety kept growing. In front of the entrance door, I stood frozen. With my ear pressed against the door, I could definitely hear sounds. Footsteps, the sound of drawers opening, the sense of someone searching for something. Someone was inside my house. I took Lucy's hand and quietly moved away from the door. We went down the stairs and back to the car in the parking lot. I put my daughter in the back seat and with shaking hands took out my cell phone and dialed 911. When I explained the situation, the operator said in a calm voice, "We're sending a patrol car. Do not go inside under any circumstances. Wait in a safe place." I held Lucy in the car. My daughter wasn't crying, but her body was trembling slightly. "It's okay, Lucy. The police are coming." How long did we wait? 5 minutes felt like an hour. Finally the sound of sirens approached and 2 patrol cars arrived. A police officer approached the car. "Are you the one who called?" "Yes." "There's someone inside." "Understood. Please wait here." The officers headed toward the door. One of them pressed the intercom. "Police. Please open the door." There was no response for a while. When the officer called out again, finally a voice came from inside. "I'm opening it now." The moment the door opened, I gasped. Standing there was Brandon. My ex-husband looked at the police officers and made an exaggeratedly surprised expression. "What's wrong, officers? Who are you? Do you live in this house?" "No, it's my ex-wife's house. I just came to return a key." I got out of the car and rushed over to the officers. "This is my ex-husband. But he has no right to be here. We've been divorced for 3 years." Brandon looked at me and gave a gentle smile. That smile sent chills down my spine. "Megan, it's a misunderstanding. I made a spare key while you were away, so I came to return it." "You made a spare key? Who gave you permission?" "Your mother said it was for emergencies." That was a lie. My mother wouldn't do something like that. Or would she? Considering my mother's recent attitude, it wasn't impossible. The officer said, "Let me check inside the house." Brandon reluctantly stepped aside. The officers entered the house, and I followed with Lucy. Looking at the living room, I was shocked. Papers were scattered on the desk. My work documents, bank statements, and documents about my grandmother's inheritance. The drawers had been opened too. "What were you looking for?" Brandon shrugged. "We have child support matters. I just wanted to confirm how much you're earning." "That's breaking and entering." One officer began questioning Brandon. The other officer was examining the house. Then Lucy said in a small voice, "Mommy, look." My daughter pointed to the bedroom. I took Lucy's hand and entered the bedroom. She approached the bedside lamp and pointed to the back of it. "This wasn't here before." On the back of the lamp, a small black device was attached. About the size of a thumb, with a small light blinking. My heart began beating violently. What was this? I immediately sent a photo to Derek. The reply came back in seconds. That's a listening device. Show it to the police right away. My hands were shaking. A listening device. Had Brandon been eavesdropping on our conversations? I called the police officer. Please look at this. The officer examined the device and his expression became stern. This is a listening device. Let's check if there are others. When we started searching the entire house, we kept finding more. Behind the stuffed animal in my daughter's room, behind the bookshelf in the living room, on top of the kitchen cabinet. In total, 4 listening devices were found. I went back to where Brandon was. He was sitting on the sofa, talking with an officer. You did this, didn't you? Brandon looked at me, and the mask fell from his expression. The face of the kind ex-husband disappeared, replaced by cold, calculating eyes staring at me. That's right. She's my daughter. I have a right to know what's going on. Right? What right do you have? I can't leave her with a mother like you. He tried to stand up, but the officer restrained him. Still, he continued speaking. You're always working, neglecting our daughter. On top of that, you bring some unknown man into the house. I have recordings of everything you and that man do together. I'll use them in court. Lucy started crying. My daughter's voice was small and trembling. Daddy, stop. Brandon looked at his daughter, but there wasn't a trace of affection in his eyes. Just the cold gaze of someone looking at a possession. Be quiet, Lucy. This is adult business. I held my daughter tight. Lucy's body was shaking. Brandon glared at me and said, I'm getting custody. My lawyer is already prepared. You're an unfit mother. I have all the evidence. Child Protective Services has already started moving. In that moment, everything connected. The report to Child Protective Services. Brandon being at my mother's house. My mother defending him. And the listening devices. Is Mom involved in this too? Brandon didn't answer, but his silence was the answer. The officer said, Brandon Morrison, you're under arrest for breaking and entering and stalking. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. As he was handcuffed, Brandon kept glaring at me. Don't think this is over, Megan. I won't give up until I take your daughter away from you. The officers took him away. I heard the patrol car door close. Silence returned to the house. I sat down right there and held Lucy tightly. My daughter was crying against my chest. I'm sorry, Lucy. I'm sorry you had to be scared. It's not your fault, Mommy. My daughter's small voice squeezed my heart. One of the officers spoke to me. We'll seize the listening devices as evidence. We'll come tomorrow to get a detailed statement, so please rest for today. You should have your door locks changed tonight. After the officers left, I called Derek. He came right away. That night, we called a locksmith and changed all the locks. After putting my daughter to bed, I sat in the living room facing Derek. Mom is involved. I'm sure of it. Derek nodded. We'll investigate thoroughly tomorrow. You should rest tonight. But I couldn't sleep. My mother was conspiring with Brandon to take my daughter away from me. Why did my mother hate me? I was afraid to know the answer. The next morning, Derek took the listening devices to an expert. After sending Lucy to school, I called a lawyer. I needed to consult about how to handle this legally. In the afternoon, Derek called. Megan, can you meet right away? I found out something serious. We met at a nearby cafe. Derek's expression was grave. I had the listening devices analyzed. They traced where the data was being sent. To Brandon, right? That's not all. Derek took out a tablet and showed me the screen. 2 phone numbers were displayed. One is Brandon's number. The other is. I looked at the screen and stopped breathing. Mom's number. My mind went blank. My mother was involved in the eavesdropping. Not just as a collaborator, but actively participating. What does this mean? Why would Mom? We need to find out. I stood up. I had to see my mother right now and get the truth from her. I arrived at my mother's house in the evening. When I rang the bell, my mother opened the door with her usual smile. "Oh, Megan. What brings you here? We need to talk. Can I come in?" Led into the living room, we sat facing each other. My mother tried to make tea, but I stopped her. "Mom, you knew about the listening devices, didn't you?" The color drained from my mother's face. "What are you talking about?" "The data from the listening devices was being sent not just to Brandon, but to your phone too. A technician confirmed it." My mother was silent for a few seconds. Then she sighed deeply and put down her teacup. "Yes. I knew." My mother's words, admitting it so easily, left me speechless. "Why?" "For your sake. For my sake. Eavesdropping on me and Lucy is for my sake." My mother looked straight at me. In those eyes was a coldness I'd never seen before. "You're not suited to be a mother, Megan." My chest hurt. I never thought I'd hear such words from my own mother. "You're always working, Lucy is all alone. On top of that, you bring in a man like that. Don't you think Lucy is pitiful? Derek is a good man. Lucy is starting to like him. You don't understand. Children need a stable home. A proper home with a father and mother. Brandon cheated on me. Did you forget that?" My mother shook her head. "People change. He's married to a proper woman now and trying to start over." With those words, a new question arose. "Married? Brandon got married?" "That's right. He married the woman he was dating after you. She's a wonderful person. He married his former affair partner." My mother knew this. How long had she known? "Mom, have you been in contact with this woman?" My mother hesitated a moment before answering. "Yes. She consulted with me. She wants children but has physical difficulties." Everything connected. The terrible truth began to reveal itself before me. "Don't tell me. You were planning to give Lucy to that woman?" My mother didn't answer. That silence was affirmation. "I can't believe this. You were going to give your own granddaughter to a stranger." "She's not a stranger. Brandon is the father. And his wife will be the mother. Lucy will grow up in their love. In a much better environment than with you." I stood up. My body shook with anger and sadness. "That's not all, is it? There must be another reason." My mother turned her face away. "Mom, tell me everything." After a long silence, my mother spoke. "Grandma's inheritance." "The inheritance?" "The house you inherited. That should have been mine originally. But Grandma left everything to you." There was resentment seeping through my mother's voice. "If you remarry, that house might become Derek's too. I can't allow that." "So you tried to destroy my relationship with Derek?" "Yes. I made the report to Child Protective Services too." My heart pounded violently. "What did you say?" "That Derek has a criminal record and is violent toward Lucy." Of course, it was all lies. "But if an investigation started, you'd be upset. I thought that would ruin your relationship." I looked at my mother. Was this person really my mother? The person who raised me? The person before me seemed like an unknown monster. I don't consider you my mother anymore. My mother stood up. Megan, wait. I don't want to hear anything more. I'll contact you through my lawyer. I left the house. I got in the car and couldn't move for a while. Tears overflowed. My chest felt like it would burst with the sadness of losing my mother and the anger of being betrayed. Derek rushed over. He said nothing, just held me. The next day, I met with a lawyer. I submitted all the evidence and began preparing to sue Brandon and my mother. Breaking and entering, stalking, eavesdropping, false reporting, attempted inheritance fraud. Derek used his connections as a former police officer to gather more evidence. Mrs. Chen, who lived next door, gave important testimony. I saw it many times. That man entering the house with a spare key. At first I thought it was some errand, but he only came when you weren't there. Mrs. Chen was a kind 65-year-old woman who had looked after us since we moved in. Her testimony was decisive. The lawyer said, "With this much evidence, we'll win. We can get a restraining order too." The police also began a full investigation. When they searched Brandon's house, they found a hard drive storing recorded data. Conversations between me and Derek, conversations with Lucy, everything was recorded. Similar data was found at my mother's house. Furthermore, emails exchanged between my mother and Brandon's wife were seized as evidence. Detailed plans for taking custody of Lucy were written there. Legal proceedings began. Brandon hired a lawyer and resisted, but couldn't say anything in the face of the evidence. My mother initially tried to deny everything, but when confronted with the emails and the listening device transmission records, she gave up. A few weeks later, the verdict came down. Brandon was convicted of breaking and entering and stalking. A restraining order was issued, and his visitation rights with Lucy were revoked. My mother was charged with false reporting and attempted inheritance fraud. Although it didn't reach a guilty verdict, she received probation. What was more painful than that was this becoming known throughout the extended family. My mother became socially isolated. On the day the verdict came down, my mother came to me crying. "Forgive me, Megan. Please." I looked at my mother. The trace of the mother I once loved was no longer there. "You're not my mother. Never come near us again." My mother left crying. That was the last time I saw my mother. Half a year has passed since then. Brandon finished his sentence and was released, but the restraining order continued. His wife filed for divorce after learning about the incident. The last I heard, he was living alone in an apartment, having lost his job and struggling. I thought it was what he deserved. My mother was completely isolated from the family. The false report became known throughout the extended family, and no one contacted her anymore. Sometimes apology letters arrived, but I never once opened them. I forwarded them all to my lawyer to keep as evidence in case she was planning something again. Our life gradually regained its peace. In the house I inherited from my grandmother, Lucy and I live quietly together. In the morning I make breakfast with my daughter and send her off to school. When I come home from work, Lucy happily tells me about what happened today. Her smile has returned, like before. My relationship with Derek was going well too. On weekends he comes to the house, and we cook dinner together or he plays with Lucy. My daughter has become completely attached to him, and sometimes when I see her taking his hand saying, "Derek, let's go to the park," my chest feels warm. One Saturday afternoon, the three of us were in the living room. Lucy was sitting on the floor drawing. Derek and I were drinking tea on the sofa, watching our daughter. Lucy suddenly looked up at me. "Mommy, what is family?" At this unexpected question, I thought for a moment. How should I answer? "Why do you ask?" At school, everyone drew pictures of their families. Daddy and mommy and children. But my family is different, right? There was anxiety in my daughter's voice. I got down from the sofa and sat next to Lucy. Family isn't just about blood relations. Then what? People you want to be with. People who want to protect you, who want to cherish you. That's family. Lucy tilted her head as if thinking. Grandma is connected by blood, but she's not family. That question pained my chest. But I couldn't lie. Grandma didn't cherish us. So she's not family anymore. Lucy nodded. Then she looked at Derek. So is Derek family? Derek smiled gently. That's for you to decide, Lucy. My daughter thought for a moment, then nodded vigorously. Derek is family. I want to be with him. I desperately held back tears. Derek squeezed my hand. In the evening, after putting Lucy to bed, I stood alone in the living room. I gently pressed my ear against the entrance door. I heard nothing. No sounds, no footsteps, no sense of anyone's presence. Just a quiet, peaceful night. The sounds I heard from beyond this door that day. That changed my life. It exposed terrible truths. I lost someone dear, and I found what was truly precious. The sadness of losing my mother still remains deep in my heart. But there was more that I gained. Protecting my family with my own strength. Discerning who I can truly trust. And that there are things more important than blood relations. Looking out the window, Derek's car was still parked in the lot. He said he'd stay late again today, see Lucy to bed, and then go home. I smiled. This is my family. This is what I must protect. I moved away from the entrance door and returned to the living room. Derek was reading a book on the sofa. When I approached, he looked up and smiled. You okay? Yes. I'm okay. I really was okay. A quiet, safe home. That was the peace I had won. And to protect that peace, I would continue to fight. For my family.